Get your butt in the squat rack. And I do mean that literally. Spending a mere 10 to 15 minutes performing a few sets of squats will firm and shape your glute muscles more than anything else in the gym. The American Council on Exercise and Exercise Scientists at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse recently studied the most effective exercises for working the gluteus maximus muscles. Their findings showed what I already knew, that squats generated significantly more muscle activation than both the horizontal and vertical leg presses. Lunges, which are basically a unilateral variation of squats, came in at a close second. Now, of course, this is only one of countless studies that confirms what I've known for years. Squats reign supreme when it comes to muscle stimulation and lower body development. One exercise that wasn't on the list is the glute machine, and for good reason. Now, I know a lot of you feel the glutes really contract when you use the glute machine, but that really doesn't mean much. All you're really doing is performing an isometric contraction with a little bit of weight behind it, and that's not going to break down the muscle, which means it's not going to grow back stronger, firmer, shapelier, and more developed. The fact is that the gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the human body, which means that it possesses more muscle fibers than any muscle in the human body. In order to break down those muscle fibers, you're going to have to use a reasonable amount of weight. In other words, you're going to have to go pretty heavy. Not only are most glute machines stacked with far less weight than you need to break the muscle down, but everybody's skeletal structure is different. And yet the weight on these machines moves along a fixed one-size-fits-all arcing pattern. The bottom line is that squats and lunges break down much more muscle than something like the glute machine, and they're far more natural since they pretty much resemble a lot of the activities that you perform on a daily basis. Everything that you do in the gym should be secondary to squatting movements, especially if your objective is to maximize your genetic potential in the glute region. Form is critical when it comes to performing squats to stimulate the glute region. When performing traditional squats, avoid placing the bar on your neck. Whenever you place the weight near the neck region, what you're doing is placing a ton of stress on the spinal erectors, and it's also going to throw you off balance, and it's pretty much going to make the exercise much less effective. Rather, you want to put the weight relatively far down on the trap muscles, right where it sits on a little groove on your back. Given enough time, it's going to feel natural. You're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But for now, don't rest that bar on your neck. You're also going to want to stand with your heels about shoulder width apart and make sure that you angle your toes slightly outward. I don't know who came up with the idea of placing your feet parallel on squatting and leg pressing movements, but I'd be willing to bet anything that he was an orthopedic surgeon that specialized in knee replacement surgery. Think about it. Rather, you're going to want to point your toes outward so that they always point in the same direction as the knees when squatting down. There's never an exception to that. Your primary objective on each and every repetition, if you want to stimulate the glute region, is to make sure that your upper leg breaks at least parallel or a bit lower. Since the glutes are such a powerful muscle, you're going to want to use a little bit of power on the ascent. You don't want to go too slow. You want to use some power, almost like you're jumping. And then from there, you want to transition into a slow descent. Once you get the hang of the exercise, an advanced tip is to completely avoid lockout, stopping about a quarter short of lockout on the way up and moving in piston-like fashion. In other words, never pause, find a good tempo, and keep the weight moving. And last but not least, don't fear bulking up from using heavy weights. You're going to need to use some heavy weight to stimulate the glute region and break the muscles down. Yes, squats will add some muscle to the glute region, but it is this added muscle that gives them the nice round appearance that women and men such as myself find appealing. So perform your squats. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.